All right, today we're tackling a huge topic, a fundamental change in how we need to think about value. We're talking about a new kind of asset that is pushing our entire financial system to its breaking point. So let's just start with the core problem, right? We're out here building these incredible technologies that are going to define the next 100 years, but we're trying to pay for them with a financial system that was designed for the last century. And that mismatch, it's becoming a serious problem for innovation. To really get why this is such a big deal, we first need to understand the new kinds of projects that are starting to pop up. We are stepping into what you could call the age of civilizational assets. So what on earth is a civilizational asset? You have to think way bigger than just a company or a new bridge. We're talking about massive, nation-level projects, things with an impact that will be felt for generations. Their real worth isn't just about the money they make each quarter, it's about how they move the needle for all of society, for the planet, and for technology itself.
Okay, so these things are different in a few key ways. First, the timescale. We're not talking about a few years, we're talking about operational lives of 30 years, maybe more. Second, their impact. It's on a sovereign level. Think projects that can literally change a city's climate or stabilize a country's energy grid. And because of that, their value is, well, it's incredibly complex. It's a mix of economic return, sure, but also social good like creating jobs and huge environmental wins. And maybe most importantly, all of this is built on top of really deep, proprietary intellectual property that needs constant, heavy investment in R&D.
Now, I know that can sound a little abstract, so let's make it totally concrete. We're going to look at a pioneering project in this space called STELOS. This should give you a sense of the mind-boggling scale we are dealing with here. First, just look at the cost of innovation. The STELOS project is sitting on an $890 million 10-year R&D roadmap. This isn't just about building something that already exists. This is about funding the pure science and breakthrough engineering just to make it possible in the first place. And that's all before you even start to think about manufacturing. The initial plan to get global production up and running, that's another $500 million, roughly. You see, these aren't startup numbers. This is the kind of capital you need to build an entirely new category of industrial infrastructure from scratch. And here's the payoff for all that investment. At full scale, the goal is a staggering 2 gigawatts of production capacity a year. That is absolutely enough to make a real, measurable dent in a whole country's energy supply. And you don't just flip a switch and get there. As you can see from this pathway, it's a careful, decade-long journey. You start with a tiny lab prototype, you move to a pilot plant, then initial commercial rollout, all before you even get to mass production and that full global scale. This is the very definition of a long horizon project. Now, all this effort is targeting a massive $95 billion market. And what's really interesting is how diverse it is. We're not just talking about one industry. It's over $23 billion in urban management, another $19 billion in energy, and almost $16 billion in aerospace. That kind of broad impact is a hallmark of a true civilizational asset.
So we have seen the incredible scale of a project like STELOS, and this brings us right to the main event, the central conflict. The financial tools we currently have are just, they're not built for this. They're fundamentally mismatched for this new reality.
And this really is the question, isn't it? Can a financial system that is obsessed with next quarter's earnings report, can it truly understand, let alone fund an asset whose real value only starts to show up over a 30-year timeline? The honest answer is no, it can't. This slide just lays it all out. And the difference is, it's stark. On the left, you've got the old school metrics, all about short-term costs and immediate returns. But on the right, that's where you see the real story, the civilizational metrics, a social return on investment of more than 4 to 1, a tiny carbon footprint, major job creation, and a hugely valuable portfolio of intellectual property. Our legacy financial system is basically blind to almost everything on the right side of this screen. This quote just nails it. Our current models don't just get the value wrong, they actively create these huge funding apps that prevent these projects from ever getting off the ground. They're not just inaccurate, they are a barrier to progress. So We desperately need a new system. This is exactly where some fresh thinking is needed. And so we're going to look at a new financial architecture, one that's been pioneered by Kavhanna, that is designed from the ground up to solve this very crisis. Okay, the first part of this solution is something called the Universal Art Index, or UAI. Now, think about how we value a one-of-a-kind painting, a masterpiece. We don't use the same yardstick we'd use for a poster we bought at a gift shop. The UAIC applies that exact same logic to these unique, one-of-a-kind civilizational assets. It gives us a way to finally put a number on their intangible, long-term, and non-linear value. But look, a new way to value something is only half the puzzle. You also need a new way to build the asset itself. And that's what the KALES and Tau prototitles framework is for. Think of it as creating a special legal and financial container for the project. A container that's purpose-built to handle a 30-year lifespan and attract the right kind of patient, long-term capital. So what does this new toolkit actually let us do? Well, for a start, it can finally capture all that long-term value that the old system just ignores. It gives us a structure to finance these projects across generations. It helps engineer liquidity for these assets that are normally really hard to buy or sell. And it provides stable governance over decades. Basically, it de-risks the entire future of a project through smarter design. And that really brings us to the most exciting thought. If we have the right financial tools, we can move beyond just this one project. The real question then becomes, if STELOS is the first of a new breed of asset, what other world-changing ideas can now be unlocked? What are we going to build next? The great projects of the next century are out there, just waiting to be built. And now it looks like we might finally have the financial tools to actually build them. Thanks for watching.